Hey guys, Akio Murasaki here. Today we're going to be talking about DC Comics, manga, and anime. Yeah, there's been an article for Nikkei X Trend, kind of reposted and recapped here by Dexerto. DC Comics boss admits manga has a major advantage over Western comics. Let's talk about this. This is a fresh new article. There are some revelations from our DC president. But also, I want to add some comments. I think he's very much off the mark. You're going to soon see why exactly. So we have this interview here, January 2026, with the DC president and chief creative officer Jim Lee, and how he reflects on why manga continues to resonate with a broader audience. Yeah, guys, we can pretty much pack it up. The point is right here. Let's go home. We're done here. Now let's get into the details. Now seriously. While American comics remain heavily centered around superheroes, that is absolutely true. Has this always been the case? Partially, I would say. Unfortunately, I am not 100% familiar with all of the American comics. I'm mostly familiar with some of the kind of side comics as well. Very old ones from the, I would say, 60s actually, but mostly with the superhero comics. I'm not I can't say oh, it's always been just the superheroes, yes or no. But Lee believes that Western comics should view manga as a learning opportunity rather than a rivalry, even though it very clearly is a rivalry right now. Their success highlights long-standing limitations in American comics. I would rather say not limitations, but a trend in American comics. And he mentions kind of that Japanese, what's so incredible about manga and anime is that they're incredibly powerful. Wow, surprise. Finds himself wondering what is missing in Western comics and why aren't they able to achieve the same flavor? Okay. And he also mentions that it's about the superhero, the advantage over American comics, which are mostly about superheroes, and that's where the majority of sales and readers are concentrated. And on the other hand, for instance, he does point out that the Japanese comics, they have a wider range of genres, like stories about cooking and soccer. That is true. You can draw stories from that, and he's kind of happy about the success of manga and obviously anime as well, but it's something we want to aim for. Now, I kind of want to cycle back because I said the answer is actually here. When you look at what kind of manga and anime is actually popular in the West, you will quickly realize it is fundamentally still superhero stories. So not only is stuff like My Hero Academia insanely popular in the West, which is based on Western comics very, very strictly, but also things like Kimetsu no Yaiba, Naruto, or Bleach, even Dragon Ball. You can say a lot of these are not about superheroes, but they are about superheroes. There is still the hero journey in the end. If you look, for instance, at the story of Son Goku and his son and his grandson as well, all of these are hero journeys. And even things like Frieren as well, not strictly a hero journey, but more or less kind of within the same, right? It's more strictly fantasy. So I don't think the superhero focus of American comics is the problem here. No, it's something actually different. It's the relatability. I know that some people would like to point out that, for instance, politics are the issue here. Because American comics are becoming too political. That is only partially true, because American comics have always been, to a significant extent, political. Now, the main difference is that the politics back then, and all the way, I would say, into the 80s or 90s, were more relatable to more people. The politics that are being featured now in American comics are simply not relatable. I'll give you one example here. Recently, there's been some kind of indie release about a granddaughter. Oh, you know what? Let me just show it to you. That'd be a little easier. So we have this article here from Bounding Into Comics, and as you can see, it mentions a new DC hero featherweight that is supposedly a granddaughter of Ras Al Ghul. And the character is transgender and, dressed up in the transgender flag. Now, not only is this incredibly stereotypical, but in the initial introduction, when I kind of go into the article, There are things that are like, they're talking, for instance, about fighting jackbooted Nazis. There are some direct references later, I think, to even to fighting ICE, fighting the revolution, and stuff like this in the original run. And unfortunately, there's also a scene where this character, where Further Wave interacts, rather romantically with another underage character. So it's playing into a lot of very on the nose, very, even I would say, offensive to trans people stereotypes. And these are simply not relatable to the majority of readers, I'm sorry to say. So it's really down to this relatability factor, because when you look at manga and anime, yes, a lot of this is going to be about superheroes or kind of the hero journey, but many manga, many anime are going to have some kind of life lesson about hope, about not giving up, about, managing with life, something every single reader, every single viewer can relate to. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said about American comics, and it is essentially why they are tanking. And since Jim Lee does fundamentally seem to miss, it's not about the genres, it's not about the superheroes, it's about the relatability. If you don't fix that, you are not going to save American comics. I'm sorry to say, DC and Marvel are both going to continue to tank in favor of manga and anime. But this is it for this is it for me for this video, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Mata ne!